Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 66 Think Tank. If you'd like to see more of our think tanks, please subscribe by pressing the subscribe button somewhere down there. And now, that's it. We've done it. We've finally said it in the intro. Forget about it. Now, tonight's topic is combat encounters with a twist. Not just, oh, here's a big orc with lots of little orcs. How can we mix it up a lot? So, I'll pass on to Chris for the check-ins. Chris.
Thank you, Josh. Yes, check-ins, where you find out how our weeks have gone. So let's start with you, Mark. How's your week been?
Yeah, pretty good. Working, really, more than anything else, and managed to get out in the evenings to socialise and do some things, which means I've not done very much on Hellenic and preparing my stuff for the Kickstarter. But we're doing pretty well on that on the whole, but yeah, all okay. But mostly just trying to get stuff kind of tidied up for going to Hong Kong week after next.
Well, work and social life is good, so it shouldn't be underrated. Josh, your week?
Busy. I was going into work at 8, coming out of work at like 5:45. I'm getting home just going. We've got back to the busy season. We've had our small season of quiet. As such, 66 Solwyn is a bit of a state of limbo. I'm sure we'll make an official announcement after I have a discussion later. Yeah, other than that, can't really complain too much because the weather's warming up. The blossoms are coming out, and soon we're going to have leaves every goddamn tree. I can stop being cold at work and stop wearing 3 layers. Yeah,
I'm appreciating the slightly better weather we're having. Yeah, it's been quite nice actually here. I mean, did either of you two get to see the eclipse?
I got to stare directly at it and not have a problem.
Well, that was bloody stupid, wasn't it?
No, weirdly, seriously. At work, we had just enough cloud cover at just the right angle that you could look at it. You just see this like bright white bloody crescent. It wouldn't damaging or anything. My eyes were fine afterwards. It's just like...
It was thick leaden cloud, so I tried to view it through probably a kilometre of cloud cover, and no, it got dark, and that was about it.
We got it pretty well because we're not that far from Josh. It was quite clear. It wasn't quite blue skies, but it was close. And so, yeah, sort of with the whole pinhole and piece of paper, we got to have a look at it. Though, you know, I was thinking, why are they making such a big fuss about it? I mean, we only had a full eclipse a few years ago, and then I realised actually it was 15 years ago we had the last full eclipse, and I thought, oops, I'm feeling old.
I was 11 when that last happened, and I'm probably going to be like, God knows how old when the next one does.
I think we said 2024, something like that. I think they said for some of the UK at least.
Oh, but, only 9 years away.
Yeah. So apart from watching a bit of an eclipse, I've sort of started a new job this week, which has gone well. 4 days of work, 2 of them at home, 2 of them at the office, settling in nicely, getting on with their new website. So that was good, nice to be sort of back into that pattern. And today I got to do some Hellenic stuff. We've almost got the briefing document for the artist and the video editor we require sorted out. So that'll be going out hopefully maybe Monday. So quite good all round. Good week. On which note I shall hand over to Mark, who I believe is going to deal with our combat encounters.
Yeah, so as Josh said, the idea is doing something with a bit of a twist to it. So in this case, it's the idea of a boss with mooks. So rather than say a big orc with lots of little orcs, the whole idea is to make sure there's something really different about the mooks, that's different about the boss and how they interact. And one of the key things is making sure that there is something more complicated about the fact, so a bit of a puzzle element to handling the boss, to make sure that makes it a bit more difficult, a bit more interesting to play and deal with. So we're going to start with Chris this time. What have you got? What's your suggestion?
Well, I was 2 lines of thought. One, I wanted to make them quite different. So I thought that, well, if one half of the equation is plant-based and the other half is animal-based, it sort of would be a nice little sort of interesting encounter. But I also wanted to do it for my current campaign I'm running in 66, which is a sort of post-apocalyptic thing where lots of things from alternate Earth timelines have cropped up, for various reasons. So what this is from an alternate Earth where evolution took a sort of quite a different line, and we sort of developed semi-intelligent trees along with other life forms, alongside sort of life forms we know. And there's one particular tree and bird which forms a symbiotic pairing. At certain times of year, the tree obviously fruits, and at that time of year, you get a flock of vulture-like birds which hang around the tree, and between them they ambush the unwary animals or traveller, both for food and to spread the tree's seeds. So what the situation was, this encounter could be dropped in sort of any sort of like countryside wilderness type area, preferably where there's other trees and things to give the nasty tree cover. But the players are walking along a wooded area, probably down a path or something like that, and there's these vultures type creatures hanging around the trees, not posing any threat, but obviously they're going to worry the players and distract them from the real immediate danger, which is the tree, which is just lying in wait near to the path. And when the victims draw close, the tree unleashes twin attacks. It's got fast-moving creepers which sort of shoot out and entwine the victim, holding them in place. And when that's done, the tree's fruit explodes. Because there's on our Earth, there's some sort of like popping plants where shoots seeds out at very high speed. So I've just scaled this up. So this fruit explodes, sending seeds out as deadly missiles, and they embed themselves in the victim's flesh. Then the birds swoop in, because they now come and eat the flesh, with all the seeds in it, and they eat them, ripping the flesh out, consuming the victim, and then of course they fly off, and of course the birds will pass the seeds through and crap it out somewhere in the forest, so you end up with a seed and a nice handy pile of guano for the seed to grow in, and of course the tree gets to spread its seeds and the birds get to eat, so it's a symbiotic relationship.
It's quite the life cycle, that, of sort of plants, animals that do rely on wandering adventurers in order to complete their their breeding. So it's obviously something which relies on having lots of animals about the place. But I like that it is suitably sick, in that the tree implants seeds in you, and then the birds try and eat the seeds out of you. So with that one, I mean, for example, could you, if one of the players is able to protect themselves from the seeds via, say, a shield or magic, does that mean they don't have to ever deal with the birds? The birds will only attack people who've got the seeds in them.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be thinking anyone who's taken damage from the seeds becomes the target for the birds, and this gives the players something to think about. And also it sort of allows you to balance the encounter differently, because you can make the birds actually really quite nasty, but they're all concentrating on certain players, leaving some untouched players free to do what they want and tackle the danger. So it would add a sort of like different dynamic to the encounter doing it that way.
Just a quick thought: the horrible idea that they only attack the bits of flesh that have got seeds in them. Occasionally you'll just find these corpses littering the ground. They've just got like bits of their face missing, bits of their arms missing, but otherwise they seem relatively intact, and no one knows quite why these corpses with just holes in them have started appearing. So suffice to say, anything else that doesn't feed on carrion has already got to them.
Yeah.
So you do something where you have like a skeleton hanging out of the sapling, with the seed having grown kind of through it. So one of the birds missed, say.
It's a bird cage into a nest.
Yeah, there's lots of sort of signs you can do to sort of like put the players on sort of guard, and actually, you know, if you present them the right way, you can distract them from the real danger. You know, because that's half the thing, is luring the players into the encounter. And I was thinking of possibly having the tree able to move, you know, Triffid-like. And I was thinking, well, actually, you could almost have a murder case in that way. You know, the players or, you know, the town watch find a body just outside the city walls with, just one part of its body consumed and nothing else touched. And the players are naturally going to think, you know, werewolves or something like that, and you know, and not get, you know, and miss the wood for the tree, so to speak.
I know you said that the tree is semi-intelligent. Is it intelligent enough not to go for, say, a whole party that are armed with pitchforks and fireballs? Well, is it blindly attacking people, or is it semi-intelligent enough to go, there's too many people, here's one person walking by, let's get them instead?
I don't know. I hadn't really considered that, but I think it could be that intelligent, or maybe it has to wait until it's got the right number of birds hanging around for the size of a party. So you could actually have the danger that the players walk backwards and forwards past several times. You know, sort of like if it's like near an entrance to a dungeon. You know, each time the players leave or go in, they pass it. Don't give it the 7-4. One day there happens to be more birds there than normal, and the tree has a go.
What if it is a genuine like psychic relationship this tree's having with these birds, and it's literally using the birds as eyes? I mean, the tree's got no visual organs; it can't see, but it suddenly develop once these birds start nesting in its branches. Like, hang on, I can use your eyes. Ooh, there's people.
There's a sense it can have, for example, roots just below the surface, or roots that break the surface of the ground, so it can count as the it can count the number of paths of footsteps going over. That'd be another idea. But I like the idea of having the birds as eyes, because it pushes the symbiosis idea of the two. It's one of the other things which is interesting is that obviously the animal or the monster has actually no reason to attempt to survive, because it's just breeding in order to output seeds. So it can pick a fight which it knows perfectly well that it will lose, but it simply doesn't matter. As long as the birds get the seeds, it's won.
So it's not necessarily maliciously evil itself. It's just nature.
It's its life cycle.
Yeah, I mean that's the point is that I was thinking like trees. Most trees do try to survive because obviously they tend to live multiple years. But once it's implanted its seeds and its victims, it could actually just leave them alone. And it's only got so much fruit. After that, it just sits there and sort of be a tree, because you think most animals and creatures it's going to attack aren't going to hunt down a tree. If there's sort of like some oxen or something wandered past and got caught like this, even if it survives, the oxen isn't going to go and think, "Oh, I'm going to get that bastard tree."
Oh, that damn oak outside the dungeon. It's his fault.
Well,
we are.
It's another way of leading into it. You can have animals with just bits, chunks taken out of them, for example, and farmers wondering why. Is this thing which people know about? So if people are farming in an area in the right kind of climate for these trees to be there, do they know that they're there and then hunt them down, or is this kind of a completely new thing that nobody knows exists?
Well, in my setting, because the characters are living on our Earth, but where lots of weird stuff has come in from other alternate Earths, they don't know. They literally don't know what they're going to meet from day to day. But you could easily sort of adapt this. I mean, if you wanted to take this, put it in a magical setting, obviously it sort of becomes a bit more plausible, oddly enough, in a magical setting. But then, you could have a region which is famous for these trees, and almost, where the farmers could make use of them in some respects. Whether a strangely third symbiotic relationship where the farmers keep them nearby their fields to keep the wild animals coming into their fields.
It's like just a quick question on the nature of the trees. Are they of a very specific shape, like branches and leaves, or do they camouflage themselves for the new location? You say they move. What if they move particularly far? Would they need to grow new leaves? Go, oh, those leaves are kind of rounded. Everything else around here is like triangles. Ooh, that's a bit suspicious.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, whether you can even give a tree sort of slightly polymorphic abilities or chameleon-like abilities. So, there's lots of ways you can play with it, and sort of, if you wanted to make it more sort of embedded into your world you're playing, then, there's lots of ways you could take it and develop this idea.
I think one thing you need to be careful here is we develop this into a wonderful, interesting part of an ecosystem, rather than a big, terrifying boss monster. With lots of mooks that we need to worry about. So,
on a serious role playing note, it could be the case of, say, foreign diplomats going, "Well, hey, here's this sapling. You'll plant it in the royal gardens. It's completely benign. Don't worry. When it reaches a certain size, don't worry about those birds that flock in it. They like the fruit." And suddenly, the royal prince to go and pie, and then gets a face full of like seeds. And it's like, that's assassination on a long con.
Yeah, the weird assassination attempt. Yeah, actually, I was thinking, yeah, rather than vultures, you could make them sort of like parrots or something like that, so they appear less threatening. Because but if you've ever met a parrot, they're vicious little buggers.
Until they fall off whatever they're sitting on, at which point they have the most indignant look ever. Okay.
So, yeah, that's quite an interesting thing. I mean, one of the things I'm curious about from the mechanics of the fight perspective is, is there any once the tree's caught someone and exploded seeds into them, is there then any further link between it and the birds? Because they're kind of independent, aren't they?
Well, I was thinking about the creepers, which sort of bind people. They will make it easier for the birds to feed and eat the seeds. So I think, once the birds have eaten the seeds out of the flesh, then the interest for the tree certainly has gone, because it's done its job. And I was thinking that one thing you could do is make a note of how much damage each person takes from the tree, from the fruit, and then compare it to how much damage they take from the vultures, and then once that is exceeded, the vultures stop bothering that person.
Okay.
Should we move on?
Yeah, swiftly.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So, I mean, we can move on. I think we've covered this one for a little bit. So we'll look at moving on for the next one. Josh, what have you got?
I have Charlemagne and the Clanks, the best steampunk band this side of Victoria. All right, no, I tell a lie. Basically, the situation is the Mad Wizard Charlemagne. I don't know why I keep using the word Charlemagne, name Charlemagne for any Mad Wizard. It just seems mad. The Mad Wizard Charlemagne has holed himself up in his Tower of Dread, and he's amassing some kind of power, and it's up to the party to find out what and possibly stop it. So, they get to the top of this tower. Throughout this whole tower, they're dealing with magical traps, magical bad guys, and magical monsters. They get to the top, and what has Charlemagne surrounded himself with? Steampunk constructs. So the entire party has brought all these anti-magic gear to this fight, and suddenly they get into a barney with all these like clockwork soldiers. And, we weren't prepared for this. So now they have to think strategically in how can we defeat these enemies we are not totally prepared for.
Okay, so the key thing is really with this one is the kind of the bait and switch.
Yeah.
Being magic and then actually being technology. So I mean, with that one, how well that works depends a lot on the world of how technological the world is. If it's a really steampunky world, they're likely to have tech. If it's a very magical world, they're probably not. And how are we going to set the player's level of technology?
I think this is possibly what Charlemagne has been working on. So they got the indication that he's working on something that nobody knows what. And so this is what he's been working on. This truly new level of technology.
So he's actually he's a groundbreaking. So he's sort of like, one day he's decided, what, I'm bored of magic. What can I do with this clockwork motor? And being the mad genius he is, what does he make? Little automaton monsters. What else is he going to do?
Exactly. So we've got magical defences. They're not designed to deal with this. Entire cities will fall to armies of these things.
Yeah, you very much need to make the mechanical things magic resistant or spell resistant as appropriate, so that the players they sort of it's a bunch of mooks, we'll just drop a fireball on them and bang, no, it's magical, it doesn't affect them, they are anti-magic. So yeah, I mean that could be the great power actually. If he's a magic user who's gone so far, he's actually discovered a way to sort of make things resistant to magic, and says, well, with this I can conquer the world.
Let's start with these little things. We'll start building bigger things. Who's going to stop me? I think to throw the quotes that we quite often quote, any technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. He's just taken that phrase literally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this encounter. I mean, of course, the point about the actual combat, and the whole question we posed was, you know, to make an interesting combat encounter. Well, the final showdown is, well, he's still a mad wizard, so he's going to be flinging magic around. So the players will be able to use the magic against him, but he can fling it around knowing he's not going to hurt his own creations. So he can be dropping fireballs, you know, on targeted on the party and his own people and things like that. Yeah. So you can actually have a. It'll be interesting to have an encounter where you can have lots of magic flying around, and then this separate threat, which is just immune to the magic, which you have to deal with in an old school sort of hit it over the head way.
And suddenly the fighters have a time to shine.
Mm.
It's what probably end up, if I did it, would run the make sure the room's got, or you got all these like unstable pillars and bits of flasks of chemicals around that may not explode when you throw them. So the idea is you basically have to MacGyver your way out of this.
I quite like that as a solution. I've really enjoyed bits of that in games where you use the environment in the fight rather than it just being a square box that you have the fight in. The dropping pillars and stuff is a very handy way for players who don't have a technical, or characters who don't have a technical bent, to get out of the situation, because they can just go, okay, well, I'll just need to drop a lot of masonry on it or throw this at it and see what happens. Might make them more powerful. Because something you can do, okay, he throws at it, brilliant, I've thrown flaming naphtha at it. Now it's a flaming clank that's trying to stab it. So you can do all that kind of stuff, make it a really hectic and complicated encounters. Players desperately try and deal with it. I've got a question over this one. Is there kind of a puzzly element in if you drop him first, do the clank switch off? For example, is there a causal or functional link between them?
I would possibly run it that they have their own, not so much self-sustaining power supply, but they've got a power supply in them that will run out after a certain time. I mean, after all, they are clockwork. Imagining you have to have people to wind them up eventually. I suppose it could be. I mean, I suppose the initial batch could be they're directly linked to Charlemagne. You drop him, suddenly they stop. Probably think they're safe, and then a couple of sessions later they start turning up against. Oh crap! Where did these guys come from?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a horrible thought. If Mooks get paths at all, or are they just one hit splat?
They just get 3 traits, yeah. So they're just one splat and dead. Or at least dead out of a combat, however you want to define that.
It's a horrible thought of the one just hidden away. So this is the adapting one, has the path adaptation. If it gets hit by the same attack too many times, he goes, okay, that's not going to work on me anymore.
Oh, you could do something cunning, like have a windmill on top of a wizard's tower. And so these little things go and plug themselves into the windmill and get wound up. So they could be self-sustaining in that sense.
It would answer the question, why has the mad wizard got wind on top of his tower?
Because
people thought he was mad. Mad, I say.
They were right. He was also clever.
Suddenly the world has steampunk.
Mm-hmm. Just one thought I had was sort of about the anti-magic. I thought, well, if you wanted to make it sort of like more like Mark was suggesting, a sort of like a puzzle to work out how to kill these monsters, rather than just having the creatures' resistance to magic, they can have an aura of anti-magic about them. So, adjacent squares, no magic works. So you can have relatively harmless these things just running around and only sort of like doing nipping at the players' heels, but just because they're standing next to the players, it's completely screwing up all their abilities. All their swords are just ordinary swords, all their spells don't work, and then you force them to use what's around in the lab.
You should imagine if someone throwing a fireball at them, this fireball just curves around the thing.
Mm.
What happened? Oh, you're not throwing fireballs at me.
You're right.
Tony didn't drop something.
Okay, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I like the sound. There's a lot we can develop with that one, particularly the puzzly kind of element and how to deal with them. And again, if he's made all the different clanks, then he can make them all be different experimental models. So they all have to be dealt with in different ways. For example, different ways you can unpick them or trip them up, or confuse their sensors, for example, so they just sit there and spin in circles. There's loads of stuff you can do with them. Cool. So next on the list is actually me talking about something what James has done. So obviously this is one that he's put in on the forums from far-flung Hong Kong. He's called this one Statue Man, and it's saying that the backstory for this is very lucky that a glowing green meteorite only hit the statue in the centre of the park. The problem is now that its statues come to life, and it's really angry about all the humans running around in the park, disturbing its peace and quiet. It also seems to be able to manipulate masonry around it. So the actual boss monster in this case is the statue. So it's copper or bronze statue, 8 feet tall, wielding a scythe. The mooks are any paving stones or anything else, kind of concrete or masonry around him that he's able to manipulate. So it could be paving stones, cherubs, flower pots, all sorts. He then has his anima of these things, which can then run around and give the players grief. But yeah, so with part of what he's got here is the paving stones actually fly at the players the turn after they're summoned or the turn after they're pulled out of the ground, and then they destroy them, hit the players and shatter, giving kind of a splash damage or bursting effect with shrapnel shards of flying concrete.
You see,
so this one's a little bit different. It's more a big monster attacking you with mooks rather than having mooks following it.
I just had the horrible vision of some obscure reason I see this in like generic modern set in Red Square. You just got like, I don't know if it's there, but it's like a statue of Lenin come to life. It's like, I'm going to throw paving stones at you.
Yeah, or you know, if there's one of those big Soviet Union hammer and sickles, you know, lying around somewhere, you know, 8 foot tall hammer and sickle which has come to life. So it's just, you know, it's not even humanoid or anything.
They've used the ammunition of the everyman, the paving stone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. You can make a counter-revolutionary monster.
Sorry, Jay, we ruined your idea.
Yeah. Made it socialist.
You can play with this one quite a lot with what the statue is. Like you said, you can have an 8 foot Lenin running around with a hammer and sickle in each hand and throwing paving slabs at people. So there's a lot you can do with that. I mean, also think like the Iwo Jima monument of the Marines putting up the flag.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, yeah.
Horrifying combination of this and the human centipede. There's a lot of potential you can do with weird combinations of these things. Yeah, the tricky thing is, obviously, as we talked about, we said funny things. Now, how do you make it scary?
I don't know. I think a 8 foot tall hammer and sickle would be quite scary. I mean, but something like, you know, say the Iwo Jima one is, you know, it just moves as one solid mass. You know, that you know, scene could be like 15 foot wide, and it just moves forward, squashing everything. You know, it's just fucking huge. So that's what the fear comes from. It's nothing clever. It's just so unnaturally dangerous.
Okay, all right, we're going to be serious now. I don't know. It could be the case of the statue's clever enough now to throw, not just spam paving stones at you. So you're travelling through Red Square, suddenly you get paving stone thrown at you that just explodes against you. Where the hell did that come from? There's nobody about. The statue doesn't move when it's commanding, maybe. It's clever enough to go, I'm going to get totaled if I attack everybody at once, so I'm just going to throw the occasional one at them to freak them out first, and then I'm going to come to life, and then I'm going to kick their ass.
Yeah, I was thinking that, you know, the Mook element is going to not be more than just the creature physically throwing them. So yeah, if the statue can create, you know, it's got a range to how far these things can create, and then just the players are walking along, and then, you know, a bollard suddenly comes to life, throws itself at them, and then explodes. You know, that's going to wake up any party going, what the fuck, you know. And then, yeah, so different, you know, especially if you stretch it, so just like, you know, anything like street furniture, so bins. Yeah, vicious gangs of keep left sides, yes, exactly.
You didn't realise it to be attacked by the street furniture. Well, you can have a phone box which kind of tries to trap people inside them and then crush them to death. And there's endless things you can do with. But it's kind of focusing back on the statue. Now, this one, the relationship with this is that it's attacking with the mooks. So you drop the statue, you drop the mooks, which means that you'll then the dynamic of the fight is very different because the players are trying to essentially just deflect the mooks long enough that they can kill the statue. Certainly in contrast to Charlemagne and the Clanks, because then you have to deal with all of those things individually.
Yeah.
Charlemagne doesn't empower the Clanks in the way that the statue empowers the paving slabs or key left signs.
Yeah, and if you made these statues are very easy to justify to be very tough, so you can you have 3 or 4 free resists. So actually, it's really hard for the party to hurt these statues. So yeah, they're constantly battering away at the statue, having to ignore the mooks, but in the meantime, the mooks are just exploding around them, running up and doing their kamikaze acts. So yeah, a real test of nerve for the players, isn't it? Sort of, we know we've got to kill the boss guy first, but it's proving so bloody hard. Do we go after the mooks?
I think it's quite scary, the idea of just seeing this paving stone come up. It hasn't grown any legs. It's just doing that motion with the 2 tips of its bottom, just going running towards you. That freaked me out.
I can't imagine them flying. Do you ever play some of the Zelda games? Because it's a common trope turns up in that where the door starts spinning up and then fly at you.
Don't talk to me about that goddamn scene. That scene killed me so many times when I was a kid. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I imagine it being slightly more like that, but there's other ways you can really play it. Particularly shifting under the player's feet. Because then if the monster can do this kind of stuff, it can do some kind of trip attack, for example, or try to bury people under paving slabs as a potential attack.
And those things are quite heavy. I mean, if they drop on your feet, you'll end up crippled if you're not careful.
I mean, with something like, say doing the potential attack, you could put, because I think there is a mook keyword for doing potential attacks on mass, mob grapple, I think it's called, or something along those lines. You can use that.
I think there's a crush as well, where multiple mooks can get together and literally just crush a foe. So yeah, especially if you sort of didn't bother giving them any sort of movement, so you only had the sort of standard mosey option, and then just lots of sort of weird attacks on the mooks. So yeah, the crush, the trip, the grapple.
Yeah, kind of like harassers rather than genuine threats then.
I don't know. Potential attacks are a really genuine threat. It's one of the things I found when GMing playtesting for Hellenic is for a potential attack on a monster, you can do a lot of damage.
Because then you get a lot better symbiosis. Because if the mooks are taking potential off their victims, then it's very easy for the statue to come up and kill them. So that you actually have a proper balance in the combat, that the two are complementing each other.
We've gone over that. So there's again, it's a solid idea. There's quite a lot you can do for developing that a little bit more. So okay, let's go around the list again because we've got a little bit more time left. Chris, do you have another idea at all?
I do. It's a slightly silly idea. It's inspired by a song by the Travelling Wilburys, which, if you don't know the Travelling Wilburys, it was a super group with George Harrison, Ringo Starr, Bob Dylan, Tom Petty and Roy Orbison. And they did a song called Tweeter and the Monkey Man, which is this 5-6 minute long ballad about this transvestite and a drug dealer who are on the wrong side of the law. I love the song. It's one of my all-time favourite songs. And I don't know why, when I was thinking about bosses and mooks and stuff to write this, it popped into my head. Because it was something and the something. So apologies for where this come from. It is slightly silly. But the situation comes about is that the party discover a damsel in distress. This is the tweeter of the account, though of course the party will not know this. And she is a tall, extravagantly dressed blonde, and she's being sort of beset by 4 sort of half chimpanzees, half man creatures, who screech and swing around her, like they're harassing them, like a gang of louts harassing, a young woman on the streets. And for the moment, the woman just appears terrified, but it's clear that the situation is going to escalate unless the party comes to the rescue. However, all is not what it seems. The damsel is really a transvestite bandit, and a tough, experienced one at that, and the monkey men are her gang. The whole encounter is staged to lure the party close, and as the party comes in, 20 or more monkey men burst out of cover and swamp the party. They make huge leaps, jumping on people's heads like chimpanzees and things like that sort of ape does, and they start poking the characters' eyes out, sort of blinding them. And so while the party are busy trying to half-blinded monkeys on their head, Tweeter draws her weapons and attacks the party when they least expect it.
Okay.
Terrifying. It's the idea that you're blinding the party. It's like, so everybody's now blind. You now have to fight blind. Good luck.
Do we have any mechanics for dealing with blindness?
Yeah, it's just a status effect. So, I mean, the thing is, unlike other game systems which have you are blind or you are not blind, we have far more subtle things. You have degrees of blindness. It just means your eyes are impaired. So, like any other hazard, if it applies, it resists you. So, anything the players are doing normally requiring sight is affected by whatever value of hazard they face. So it immediately makes all their sort of attacks and defences harder.
Yeah. Okay, so how big are the monkey men? So they're like flying monkey chimpanzee kind of size, or are they more man than monkey?
I was thinking larger than chimpanzees, but I mean, I could have just had chimpanzees, to be honest, but the title wouldn't have worked then. You know, tweet them with chimpanzees, just it wouldn't be any point. But so, yeah, I've just sort of made them sort of they're more intelligent, more vicious than sort of our apes, but they can't be as big as say like gorillas, because otherwise when they land on someone, they're not going to blind them; they're going to squash them. So I was thinking, yeah, bigger than a chimp, smaller than a gorilla.
Enough to blind you still. Imagine those getting the crush keyword suddenly. Crushed by monkeys.
It's not a good way to go.
No. Let's face it, the rest of the party are going to get a good giggle out of it. You were forever known as the one who was killed by monkeys. It sat on you.
I mean, yeah, if you're doing this in a sort of like Pathfinder D&D type setting, you'd make Tweeter a thief so that she can get a backstab attack in, and do mega damage. In 66, you'd do it in that you would have to probably sort of not allow the players to properly defend. It's effectively a hidden, same as the foe being hidden. You don't see them coming, so you don't get such a good defense against them.
Okay, I mean, are the monkeys actually trying to do damage in this, or are they just essentially mass potential attacks and movement restriction, and then it's actually the tweeter, as it were, who does the killing?
Yeah, I was thinking that if they do any actual life damage, it's going to be relatively minor because they don't have weapons. They're not clawed creatures or anything like that. Yeah. So you could make a mess of you, but it'd be hard to be killed by one of these.
Okay, yeah, so it's really a case of keeping them off you, or keeping yourself moving to the point where you can actually then spend whatever potential you've got left on attacking so-and-so, because the more you can attack the bandit, the more the less potential they have to kill you and your mates.
That's right, yeah. It's the bandit which is the real threat, but of course, unless you deal with the mooks, you could get blinded very easily, and then once you're blinded, life gets really difficult.
I can't imagine being able to fight blind. That's a terrifying concept.
Yeah. Okay. I say I like that one. It's a nice, kind of simple, straightforward concept. I like the ambush aspect of the whole thing, where you turn and go, oh, we're just going to help this person. Oh, no, wait.
Yeah, it's the old sucker punch. And the thing is, you can this basic structure of encounter you could actually drop in to almost anything. It's just as likely that the tweeter pulls out a Uzi from underneath her skirt as she does a broadsword. So you can use the same structure in almost any setting.
Yeah, certainly. It's it's completely agnostic to the kind of details of the world around it. So yeah, okay. I'm going to probably get one more in perhaps before we go anywhere else. So we'll just go for Josh. Have you got another one, or anyone else that someone's written in here they can use?
I'm going to be reading out Emily's Mama Frog. And if this is anything like last week's meeting, it's going to be horrible. For those who saw last week's meeting, check it out on our channel. The phrase is cancer breath and the longing. Right, whatever.
Yeah.
So, in a Bayou temple, professionalism. In a Bayou temple lies Mama Frog, a large corpulent frog woman and a powerful witch who the heroes must defeat. So the account goes like this: Mama Frog is a large, I'm assuming half woman, half frog witch. She's about 7 feet. However, her movement is slow and sluggish. She counteracts this by using ranged spells and spawning children. If the mama is hit physically or with magic, she'll spit out a mook frogman standing 4 foot tall, who will in turn spit out toxic frogs. Oh God.
Yeah, I like this because I envision these mook frogmen sort of projectile vomiting, little frogs at people.
If I'm reading the rules right, those little frogs are going to be full of potential damage. That's horrible. Especially if you're not wearing much armor in places, you're just going to get a frog to the face. Oh, nice. There you go. Poisoned. Oh, by the way, you've still got ranged fireballs being thrown at you, and you've got the frogmen. And every time you hit her, oh, there's going to be more of those things. So I suppose it's I use the phrase DPS race in the basis sense that you have to kill her as quick as possible, or she will spawn and overwhelm you very, very, very quickly.
Yeah. So is she producing these things constantly? Every turn you get N frogs?
It's if she's hit by the look of it. If she's hit physically, like with a sword or with like a lightning bolt, she'll just go, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. And which then again, in turn, they're spitting out poison frogs.
Are the frogs an attack, or are the frogs a mook in and of themselves? Probably an attack, otherwise the GM's going to have to manage his board of...
They are probably just... they're probably kamikaze frogs, and she spits them, but the frogmen spit them out and they just... all over you.
I was thinking that the spitting out of toxic frogs is just an attack, it's a range attack or whatever. So that's just the frogman's sort of way of attacking. So the mooks are the frogmen. But I was thinking the critical thing is how you do the mechanics for the woman, for the mama frog being hit. Does a new one pop out every time she's hurt by being hit, or just every attack, or or if an attack fails, does a frog pop out? But if it succeeds, it doesn't.
I imagine it'd be if she's hurt. This seems like a very much reactionary defense mechanism. So if the body feels pain, as a defense mechanism, she spits out something that can actually fight faster than she can, to counteract whatever threat is faster than them.
Yeah, depending on the system you do it, you could have she spurts out a mook for every point of damage she takes. Or, if we're doing it on D6, I'd say you're doing it for 4-point scale. So every 4 points of damage she takes, then an extra mook comes out. But you could model it, say, every time she loses an advantage, one of the mooks come out. But I think you need a reasonable number of mooks to really make the fight work. And then, of course, the interesting question is then what do the players do about the mama frog if they can't hit her, without creating mooks?
That's why I reckon they kill her as fast as they can. They want to spawn too many mooks, so they have to do as much damage as they can in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, but if a mook production is tied to the amount of damage she takes rather than the number of attacks, then you're always going to end up with the same amount of mooks regardless.
I think that'd be up to the individual GM or players to discover that one. Maybe probably a good question to ask Em if we get a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those monsters where how you model this special ability can make quite a big difference to the encounter. So, which makes it more interesting because actually, you could actually have 2 or 3 variants of this idea easily.
I know for life she's going to use this on Tuesday campaign. I know of it. It's going to happen. She thinks of these ideas and then suddenly, poof, there they are. that is. I imagine that this would probably be quite a high-end encounter. This is something they might encounter later on, maybe. This seems like something that if new players are introduced to this quite early on, they'll just get swamped. Especially if the frogmen are being attacking each turn as well. Suddenly you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frogs attacking you all at once. I mean, maybe they can't do that much damage, but if they get enough of them, they start will.
Yeah, I think that it'll be an interesting one. You could do it quite low level. I mean, yeah, as long as you could be careful about how many mooks get presented. But it'll be an interesting one to put in a sort of like a dungeon near the entrance to a dungeon and for a starting party. So maybe they do a situation where the party can actually back off from it and leave that section of dungeon alone. So it sort of stays there. They know, they try to kill it, just more mooks will appear. So the party avoids it until really they're hard enough to deal with it.
No, not going there. Screw that.
Just as an interesting side note on my Thursday evening campaign, the post-apocalypse ones, the party are being so cautious and running away from every encounter they can. They've really gone to this, we're not doing it, it's not like D&D where we're kicking down doors and killing monsters and getting treasure. This is about survival, which means not getting into a fight. And I've never seen a party run away so often.
The Sir Robin tactic. Okay,
yeah, buggering off.
So he has. He's scarpered.
So yeah, I think we've gone through the whole set of these now. I like the Mama Frog. I think the main thing is just how horrible the idea is just things vomiting recursive frogs at you. So we'll I think we'll probably end at that point because we're pretty much out of time. So I'm going to hand back now to Chris for pluses and deltas.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, so a bit of a meeting where we think about what we really liked about tonight's meeting and what we would like to change or do differently next time. So, Josh, pluses and deltas.
Pluses. It's an interesting topic. We had a few people to discuss it, and then conversely as the delta, I think it'd been a good idea to get maybe 1 or 2 other people. Certainly at least 1 more to get a few more perspectives on these ideas. Maybe not necessarily another idea, but definitely another perspective as to how it would work.
Yeah, I think with when we've got 4 in a meeting, that one person can draw a blank on a topic, and there's still 3 people to kick it around, and it gives that better variety, doesn't it?
4 is probably our ideal number, or at least for smaller topics.
Mark, your plus and delta.
Plus points. Interesting to get back to kind of a nitty-gritty. You can get very crunchy with this as well, with the nitty-gritty of fights and how you design them. And I really enjoy thinking about how you make fights different and how you design the relationship between the mooks and the main monster, such as do they have to operate together? How do they cooperate to make the players' lives difficult? Deltas. I'm trying to think how to put it. Whilst each one we came up with sounded like quite a scary thing, none of them were the really big, terrifying kind of end boss kind of monster. I mean, they were frightened in terms of shooting seeds into your body so the birds can eat them, and frogs that vomit frogs that vomit frogs. But so the imagery was, but in terms of the actual kind of power and things, they were sort of things you find in the environment. A lot of them weren't kind of the big monster at the end of the dungeon, although Charlemagne possibly was.
Yeah, I think they sort of tend themselves to be more wandering encounters. But then again, that was to a certain extent the brief, wasn't it? We said that we didn't want a big, huge, complicated backstory, and that sort of lends itself more to these standalone little encounters.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I think but Charlemagne makes a nice boss monster. I suppose you could make the Fog Woman quite a good boss monster, but certainly the tree and the statue sort of just are of themselves. Okay, thank you, Mark. Finally, my pluses and deltas. Pluses, yeah, I think I liked the topic. It's a bit harder putting together these more crunchy topics and being more specific, because I think it's sort of you need to word them carefully. But I think it worked. I think the topic sort of worked, and we've got good ideas. I think just I don't know, from a personal point of view, maybe we're just being the three of us. It just seems slightly flatter than normal. Rapport, the speed of responses and things like that wasn't quite there as we are some weeks, but I still had fun, so I'm not going to complain. So that's it for pluses and deltas. Let's hand over to Josh.
I will outro this video. So if you enjoyed this think tank, feel free to subscribe to our channel. There are many more think tanks you can view, many past ones. I don't actually know what the topic is for next week, so we'll be announcing that shortly on the blog or the thread on Reddit when I get to put it up. So we hope you enjoyed this small discussion about combat encounters and how they can be twisted. I've been Josh Radford, joined with Chris Tregenza and, can't read your name, Mark Foster, I do apologise, with the 66. Have a good day.